What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast. Season 2 is in full gear, and so we are super excited for what we got going on this season. Just to let you know what that means, we still have our weekly Prepisodes where we discuss movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. I got my buddy POPpaGoss on those each and every week. Those drop on Mondays at 6 a.m. Also, we have our Creators Conversations. This is where we're interviewing people from the business and beyond to discuss what they do to create and how they create their art. We will be releasing one of those interviews a month, so be on the lookout for that on YouTube. We're also doing our monthly watch-alongs where we pick a movie to watch. We live stream our conversation while we're watching the film on YouTube. This week, we've got a special guest on the show, the Horror Greenbook. Brendon's going to be discussing the movies that he finds fascinating from around the world. We hope you also check out our website at moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com. There you can see all of our social links. You can listen to the podcast. You can watch the podcast. We also have our merch store. You can find tons of merch for Movies That Make You and our friends. We also have a link to our letterbox where you can see all the movies that we watch in preparation for the new releases, but also the movies that make you laugh, the movies that make you cry, the movies that make you scream, and everything in between. So before we get to this week's episode, let's check out what we got coming up on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, we are celebrating the franchise that brought POPpaGoss and I together, Scream. We're going to be discussing all 6 prior films in preparation for Scream 7 hitting theaters that week. The week after that, we're going to be preparing for The Bride. And in order to do that, we're going to be watching a bunch of Frankenstein stories, and we're bringing our good friend back to the show, Horror Cat Dad, as we discuss these classics. The week after that, we're going to be preparing for the Oscars by talking about the 10 nominees for Best Picture. We're going to be bringing my niece on the show. She is fascinated by Sinners and other films that released this year. So we're looking forward to having that conversation as we prepare to see which movies get the golden statue. The week after that, we're going to be talking space movies in preparation for Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling. We'll be talking about a couple of movies where folks needed rescuing from space: Apollo 13, The Martian, and Interstellar. Check it out. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I am Sprang. I'm here. I got my co-host here. POPpaGoss is in the house. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
What's happening? We're excited to have you here. And we are also excited to have our new friend to the podcast. We got Brendon from the Horror Greenbook here in the house today. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me here. Welcome, guys, and welcome, travelers who are new to me. I'm more than happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So you and Josh have known each other for a while. How did you guys connect?
Man, it was really fun. It was at OKC HorrorCon a few years back, and we just ended up chopping it up. I think you may have been familiar with my channel at that point, or we just ended up talking because I had a camera, or then I can't remember exactly.
So I watched your channel, and then I was at OKC Horror hanging out with my buddy Collector's Conquest, who's here in Oklahoma. He's got a couple of YouTube channels. And we were at the Hocus Pocus panel with Vanessa Shaw and Omri Katz. And I looked up, well, you asked a question. You asked a really good question. And I was like, I saw you from the back, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the Horror Greenbook. I don't know for sure. I know he said he was going to OKC Horror possibly. So then I waited around, and you were charging your phone or camera over in the corner of the Q&A panel. And when they were done, I came over and introduced myself, and I had messaged you, commented on your videos, and you knew who I was right away. So we just chatted, and it was actually kind of cool. We ran into Vanessa and Omri on their way out. They like said hi, and they were like trying to get by us. So we had a little conversation, and then we hung out a little bit at the con, and then you know, Brendon does a lot of awesome stuff on his channel, but he used to do weekly, like twice a week. I mean, I don't know how he was able to do it for so long, but you know, live watch-alongs, and that's where we kind of got our idea to do live watch-alongs every once in a while. And that community that he's built is just so awesome, and I've made a lot of friends. A few of them live here in Oklahoma City, which is crazy. So I've been able to build a friendship through that community. Brendon and I have gotten closer. You know, I always can message him if I see something that I know he'll like, or ask him a question about anything, or give him a heads up on Larry Fishburne when he was trying to add him to his poster. And so, yeah, it's just been fun. I mean, that was OKC 2 years ago that we first met. So We've known each other
Nice.
for about as long as Spring and we met a little bit before that because Spring and I met at Frightmare that year, right before OKC Horror, because OKC Horror was in July and Frightmare is always in May. So that was just a couple months apart before I met
Wow.
both of you
Dope
guys in
timing.
person. Yeah,
Yeah.
good time. I mean, that was a good year for me personally, and everything's happens for a reason. I believe in that.
No
So
doubt.
it's been cool. But yeah, Brendon has been. I definitely call him a friend, and we help each other out. He has an amazing community, like I said, and check out his channel for all of our listeners. I mean, if you like horror, if you like to go to conventions but you can't really afford to go, he takes you on a journey to all of them, all the big horror ones.
Yeah.
He misses ones here and there, but he makes it work as best as he can and shows them off live while he's walking through, and you get to be there right with him and ask him questions in the live, and it's just a really awesome channel idea, really cool
Appreciate that.
person. So nobody better to run that channel than Brendon. So we're glad to have you on the pod.
Hey, man, I really appreciate that. And again, I really appreciate the help in regards to Lawrence Fishburne. I always like to say, like, that was a major, major part of why I wanted to start the channel, just to be able to connect with other horror fans and people that really enjoy pop culture in general. I always like to say that, we always, like to have those fond memories of being kids and hanging out with our childhood friends and watching these movies that really have inspired us and have shaped our lives in so many ways, but to be able to continue to do that with friends that actually are as passionate as we are, because we may have had friends that may have enjoyed a certain movie or two, but to be able to enjoy the entire genres and such, that's just something that makes it all better. So to be able to have that fellowship among other fans is, hey man, it's priceless. So I really appreciate you, Josh. And Spring, it's
Heck
also,
yeah.
one of those things where it was great to meet you not too long ago. So I'm looking forward to us just continuing on and building a great friendship, brother.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We got to meet at OKC HorrorCon this year. So this was our first year going to the cons. I went to the screen showing. We've said this on the podcast, but just so you know, Brendon, we went to a screen showing, and that's where I met Josh at the screen showing before it went down, and just got hung out and talked and invited him on the podcast because he liked horror movies. Um, and then just kind of this past year, 2025, I decided, at Josh's encouragement, I said, let's go try out Texas Frightmare. And so we did Texas Frightmare, we did Fan Expo Dallas, we did OKC Horror, and we did Tulsa Horror. So
Nice.
our first year doing cons, I did 4.
Yeah, that's
I don't
pretty
know.
epic.
That's a great
I don't know if
roundup.
we'll do 4 every time, but I know we've at least already got our tickets for Frightmare and OKC next year. But I saw Laser Wagon was, already promoted in San Antonio's, and I'm like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, Chris is like him and Brendon are very similar in the fact that they Chris doesn't attend as many, but like he is in the same groups and communities. So like he's always even if he doesn't go, he still is posting whatever is coming out, whatever conventions, especially in Texas, are coming out. So it's really cool. But yeah, we all get to kind of connect. Sounds like Frightmare is going to be. We're going to have a massive meetup because I just continue to add names to my. I just was talking to somebody yesterday. They were like, hey, what's the next con you're going to? I was like, probably Frightmare in May. And they're like, oh, we'll be there. And I'm like, okay, well, there's going to be a massive meetup.
Yeah.
So you might as well just
do
join
it.
the list. So
Yeah.
we're going to have, it's going to be, we got to get a group photo, but it's going to be
Yeah.
There's just
Going
so
down.
many. I got a buddy from Nashville. Him and his wife are coming out. He has a podcast. They're coming out. And then obviously Brendon, Laser Wagon, possibly Spooky Oki, who we just had for our episode that dropped yesterday for Silent Hill. I mean, there's probably 10 to 20 different groups of people.
Horror Cat Dad,
Horror Cat Dad,
Larry.
Larry, who I am really close with, but I still have not met him in person because we just keep missing each other. But yeah, I can't wait to meet him either. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. We might even have some OKC people up here that will drive down from Brendon's community. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So on your channel, you've got like the cons, which are a lot of your videos, but then you also have the live watch alongs. Kind of share a little bit about that. I mean, it's something that we actually are going to be doing consistently this year. But what got you into that idea? And like, what I saw that there are some that are like themed because you're watching a 2 or 3 movies at a time. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Like what
Yeah,
inspires that.
that pretty much started just from pretty much crafting the community, hearing from guys like Josh and other people that would, comment on different videos in regards to the conventions. And, I would ask certain questions throughout the vlogs about, you know, what's your favorite this type of movie or who's your favorite director in regards to this. And, um, I would love to have these conversations with these, different people, but only conventions go on so often. So it's just like, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
how could I find a way to just hang out with these different personalities that comment on my videos so I could actually get to know them better and actually shape the community a bit better? Because, I wanted to have something where, like I said, we have subscribers that are in Oklahoma. So, Josh can link up with other people that are in the area as him. And, we do favors for each other. If someone's looking for a particular like toy or something like that, or, a particular movie that's just been released or whatever, we can help each other out that way. So it's just a cool network for each other to do stuff like that. But I wanted to do something weekly where we could count on a particular time to meet up, watch random films, and sometimes I would just let particular subscribers pick the particular film for that week just to get an idea of their personalities and their tastes. And we've had some pretty epic watch alongs just based on the movies that some of them have picked. And they've
Nice.
actually exposed me to some titles that I've never heard of. So it's a great way of just, a real throwback to those times where we rented, movies just blind, or based on the cover. And oh, this looks pretty cool, so let's watch it. Or your friends
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, dude, have you ever seen this? No, I haven't. We got to watch this. So it's just, one of those moments that we're trying to recreate amongst, our friends. Even though we're adults now, we have real
Yeah.
things going on in life. So just to be able to kick back, relax, and just take a load off and just enjoy, the little small things in life, like, just goofy, silly movies that, we can just
Mm-hmm.
get enjoyment out of. It's just one of those things that it's worked very well. The fact that we can all just get together and just, unwind for a couple of hours. If it's a holiday, we all have like a holiday related one, or if a celebrity's just recently passed or just did something really cool, we'll try to find a movie that's from their filmography or things of that nature. So we try to do a little bit of everything with the live watch parties, and it's really built quite a great community.
That's awesome, man. That's very cool. I do a little marathon with my brother-in-law every now and then, and my nephew comes, and sometimes I make Kristen show up. And we'll just do like a 3-movie marathon in one day. We've tried to do 4,
Mhm.
and it just went too long. Like we had to cancel the 4th one because it was just like we get up there and we just start talking and talking and talking, and then like, oh, let's watch the movie. Oh yeah, that's why we're here. And so the one we watched in January was for Groundhog Day, but we're not going to watch Groundhog
Mhm.
Day. It's movies that have the similar like repeat
Yeah.
idea. And so the first one we're going to watch is Palm Springs with Andy Samberg,
That's a
and
good one.
the second we're going to do is Happy Death Day, and
Nice.
then we're going to do Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise
Yeah.
and Emily Blunt. For it, they're all kind of that like you got to figure out something,
Mhm.
in order to get out of this cycle. You got to figure this out, and so it's kind of fun. We're calling it Groundhog Day again. Is the kind
That's
of the
gonna be
theme of the
dope.
marathon.
Yeah.
But I love the themes too. Like we did, I've got one on the list that's like you don't know Jack, and it's all Jack Nicholson films. And then there's another one you do know Jack, and it's the Jack characters because there's always Jack characters. I just try to come up with silly themes. We did one that was actually we haven't done this yet. It's it's about time, and the movies are either out of time or they get like there's Memento, which is out of time, Pulp Fiction, Memento, which is like reverse and forwards, and then you got Pulp Fiction, which is completely out of time. It's all episodic and it's not in a timeline, and then Irreversible, which is completely backwards
Right.
from start to finish. And so just kind of playing with the idea of like just finding a theme. It's kind of fun and unique. So I love that. So I think that's really cool. We've started doing this year. We're doing once a month. We're going to do a watch along, and we're theming most of the time. I'm kind of like I just kind of get gravitated towards like celebrating a release date of a movie that I like. And so we've got a lot of movies this year that are like having their 35th anniversary or their 50th anniversary. Like Rocky's 50 this year. And so we're going to try to watch Rocky the day that it came out 50 years ago. And it's like, just for me sitting in the space of like, man, 50 years ago, right this moment, people were sitting in the theater watching this for the first time. Can you imagine? Like, it's just kind of a fun way to celebrate those films that have stood the test of time. And even 50, 30 years later, which Scream celebrates its 30th this year, there's still people talking about it, still people seeing it for the first time, still being wowed by it. And it's like, those are the ones that it's fun to celebrate. A little bit of that. So it's fun. Well, cool. Well, I kind of, like I said before, I kind of want to get to know you even more. Like, thank you for sharing all you shared. And obviously, like, kind of the whole going to Blockbuster or the video shop and picking out a movie and watching with your friends is integral to your growing up. But, like, what was the thing that you would say, like, was the first thing that just got you into hooked into watching films?
Man, probably being able to watch films with my mom. I mention her a lot on my channel. She was very influential in regards to curating my taste in regards to movies. I was very fortunate because she worked for the public library system. So she did material intake. So she was one of the first people to touch, the new material coming into the library system, no matter which branch it was going off to. So all the new VHS, all the new books, all the new cassette tapes, things of that nature. My mom would get a chance to see that, once when it was ordered into the system. So in a lot of cases, we were able to get like discounts if I wanted to purchase a particular circus set, things of that nature. And also, she knew that I was a big horror fan very young. And just the fact that I come from a pretty big Halloween loving family. So it's one of our major, celebrations per year in my family, going back to when I was a little kid. So we would just always, relate over just scary movies. And she would be the type
Mm-hmm.
to just say, hey, I saw this film. I think it looks pretty interesting. It's about this doll or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. Ends up being child's play. And,
Yeah.
it's funny to think about the films that I was watching with her, like cult classic films that even diehard, horror film fans haven't seen yet or have like are amazed at the fact that, wow, your mom let you watch that? Or, like whose mom would watch Basket Case with them? Or films like Popcorn or, just random little schlocky films. And my mom is totally like very petite, very small, quiet type lady, but for some reason she would let me watch these films. Now, the only caveat was blood could fly all over, but the moment boobs would come on screen, it would kind of have to be like,
Yeah.
okay, all right. And then it's kind of like, okay, I kind of see what's going on here. But
Yeah.
generally
So you didn't get to watch all the Jason films very much because Jason's the one that's got
they would
got it
have to
all
be
over the
on like
place.
TNT or USA,
Yeah,
so they
yeah,
were
yeah.
edited at
Yeah.
first. When I got to see them in their, rated R
Edited
fashion, it was
state.
just
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. I get to see why these are as cool as they are. But the first real film that I saw that really made film really stand out for me, and is still my favorite horror film to this day, is The Shining. It was the film that kind of like made me know what the art of making a film is. It was the first film that just kind of seemed different to me. The way the shots were made, like with Danny riding his big wheel through the hallway, the cool tracking shot that way, and just so many other cool things that Kubrick did. I didn't know, you know, Kubrick was Kubrick then, but I knew that I liked his films like that, and another film that I saw with my mom. I mean, that I like to mention is Full Metal Jacket. So
Well, yeah.
that is another film that really shaped my love of film. So Stanley is a major, major big part of my love for, just film and just the art of it. So That's pretty much where it
that's
starts
awesome.
from.
That's amazing. We did a watch along for Shining this past year in 2025 for the, I think it was the 45th anniversary of The Shining, and then Kristen and I went and saw it in the
In
theater.
IMAX.
First time I've ever seen it in IMAX, and it was the
same
first time
here.
it was ever shown in IMAX.
Yeah.
That was so cool to see that. But yeah, I mean, The Shining is definitely epic. It's the one that actually Kristen doesn't like horror movies, but when we first got together, she's like, I really like The Shining though. So
Nice.
don't So she likes certain types of horror and some horror that she doesn't like. Kind of random international horror movie that I might bring up a little bit later that we watched yesterday. So
Nice. Okay.
but yeah, we are excited to have you here, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's funny, Josh, how so many people are like, it was my mom. It was my mom.
Yeah.
You know, because like 3 or 4 people that's
Yeah.
their story. So it's
Yeah,
pretty cool to see that theme.
our buddy Tommy, who you'll meet at Frightmare, Brendon, he lives in Tampa, or I'm Jacksonville, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had the first episode we had him on for was like black lead horror films last year. And great, awesome episode. But yeah, his number one thing every time he said a movie was, you know, I watched this with my mom, my dad. My dad was in the military. Watched it with my mom. But yeah, it's cool. Our moms are very special. My mom has passed in 2018. Like she didn't watch horror movies, I could tell you that much. She knew that I loved like Batman. She knew I loved Batman. I remember seeing like a couple Batman movies with her in the theaters and when I was a kid. So it's like it's a special thing especially when your parents, if you watch them, like my dad's the same way. Like my dad watches stuff, but he usually doesn't watch something a second time unless it's like he loves it and he'll watch it later on. So it's always very rare when he like watches something for a second time. But I'm the same as you, Brendon. Like The Shining, that was the first like legit movie and it was a horror movie. So like I had only seen a couple of horror movies up to that point. And I remember my dad showing me The Shining and it was an edited version. But then I watched the real version later on. And that movie just like blew my mind. Like I couldn't believe the imagery. And obviously I was a huge Jack Nicholson fan already from Batman and stuff.
Yep.
And it was just crazy to see him in like a crazy psychopath role. And he's so good. Just his facial stuff alone in that, I don't think he gets now he does, but when the movie came out, I know it like didn't do as well and wasn't praised as well. I think it went over people's heads, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's what makes us love it even more is it's, you know, I wouldn't even call it a cult classic. It's just like, it's a classic now. So it's just fun. But yeah, it's funny that you say The Shining got you into, because that's one of my favorite movies all time too. So that movie means a lot to me.
Yeah, the movies that I watched growing up were on the Star Wars. It was a Spielberg, you know, E.T., Star Wars. I know Star Wars is George Lucas, but then Indiana Jones. Like I grew up on those, and those are integral to my like love of like just the entertainment thing of like sitting and watching a movie with your dad or your mom. Like that was one of the things I did. And then when I got into high school, my stepdad was really into movies, and so we'd go every weekend. We'd go at least twice, once Friday night, once Saturday night, and so I was just constantly going to movies. And then the one that really, I think the real one that really kind of got me excited for film was actually Mission Impossible, and I've shared this a little bit, but it's just that I was at a friend of mine that was into like film editing, and he was going to film school and stuff, and so he was talking a lot about like he like paused in like the intro, like after the opening scene and then like the cold open, and there's like the intro where it's kind of like the old TV show. It does all these clips, and then he's like pausing and he's doing that was on there for less than a second, but your brain registers it. And I just remember that conversation just going, wow, like your brain can just register things so quickly, and the editing of those things is so important. And so that was the one that kind of really got me looking at like how things are edited and what's the thing that makes the movie, because it's more than just the actor on the screen. It's the director, it's the editing, it's the producing. So that kind of got me into it. So it's pretty cool. Well, awesome, guys. We are here to talk about international horror. We've got a movie coming out this week called, I got it right here, sorry, Psycho Killer. It is a horror film. A police officer tracks a killer after her husband, a highway patrolman, becomes one of his victims. So it is directed by Gavin Poloni. So we're going to talk about international horror films today. Brendon, when we met, I invited you kind of on the podcast, and I just asked you, like, what would you like to talk about? What's something that's kind of grabbing your attention, and maybe we can find a way to fit it into the podcast schedule. And you said international horror, and so I'm excited to hear the movies that you're going to share with us, and kind of share a little bit about, like, what is it about international horror that makes it different? Let's start there.
Well, I would say that different cultures have different sensibilities, different legends, different folklore, different things that they are afraid of. But the fact that the matter is, the things that we are afraid of are things that we all can relate to, no matter what language we speak. The scary man that you can't really see at the end of the street that's like vaguely familiar, but something's a bit off to him is universal. Something's a bit creepy about that. And you're just like, okay, no matter what, you don't even have to say anything. You just put that visual up and it just hits. And it's the cool thing about international horror is the fact that, something can be as known in a particular country that us Americans may not know about, or, just something as universal as a ghost story can transcend everywhere. So that's just one of those things that just really is fun. My journey with international horror consciously took place when The Ring came out. I saw The Ring in theaters, was absolutely amazed by it. Still one of my favorite theater going experiences. But I would hear people say, hey, you should check out the Japanese version. And, I got really into the lore of The Ring and what Ringu was, and the fact that there were various different sequels already out in Japan. So I went to my local Blockbuster and they actually had Ringu in their DVD
Nice.
section. So I watched it and I knew The Grudge was coming out later. And I knew that, that was based on another J horror film. And that kind of led me down the J horror rabbit hole. And you know, going through all those particular films, and it was something that was very cool to see, like, the imagery of the ghost girl with the long black hair and how it was something that was very popular, iconography in Japan. So it's just like, that's very cool, and it led me to, um, Korean horror and led me to other, countries. I didn't know that I was already well versed in Italian horror, but that was because,
Wow.
they were marketed as American films, but, they used the actual overdubs and things of that nature. So you knew that something was a bit off with the talking and things of that nature. But later on, you find out that, oh, these are Italian directors using Americanized names. And then you're just like, oh, well, that's why they seemed a little bit weird. So that led me down the rabbit hole of wanting to learn more about the Italian horror subgenre, and then getting more into that because you can go into giallos, which is a favorite of mine. And it's really cool to know like how the film industry works in different countries once you learn about international horror. Like, for instance, like how the Italians in the 70s and 80s loved to rip off everything that was popular in America. If you can think of any popular film that was in the States, I can guarantee you there is not one, not two, but probably 10 Italian ripoffs of that particular film. So there are great ones like, of course, there's Alien ripoffs. There's, the probably the most famous Italian horror film that most people know of is Zombie, which is an Italian ripoff of the zombie films that were going on in America, the Romero zombie films. So it was named Zombie 2 because Dawn of the Dead was named Zombie in Italy because Dario Argento had a partnership with Romero to distribute the Italian rights to Dawn of the Dead over in that country. So there's the connection with that. And then, you get to see how crazy the world of Italian cinema is with all types of other subgenres. So, and then not only that, but another route with that is I didn't know that the Westerns that I was watching with my dad, the spaghetti westerns were, of course, Italian produced. So all of these Clint Eastwood westerns were done by, the Italian directors. Of course, you get, the great soundtracks, which is another fantastic thing about Italian cinema. So, and that inspiration goes on because, of course, you get filmmakers like Tarantino that, influence is there in regards to the music that he picks. So, yeah, man, it's fun and wonderful world to dive into. So I can't wait to give you some more recommendations for particular titles that I love.
Yeah, man, that's a cool kind of story of how you kind of branched off and started finding yourself in these different places. I mean, I actually did a little bit of that. Like I heard about Ringu, and I think I've watched it one time, but I didn't go down the route of seeing that one. And I don't want to take it away, but we'll talk about it later if it doesn't come up. But it might come up in your list already. But yeah, I mean, international horror is one of those things that I've also tried to dive into. I think there's a sense that I really like what you said, that like certain things in different cultures scare differently. And so I think there's also something you can find in horror movies that are also giving a little insight into that culture, and kind of opening your mind up to the different people and different ways that they live. I know one of the things like comes to mind that's similar is like Shang-Chi, which is a Marvel film, but it's really kind of leaning into the Asian filmmaking style and the Asian anime style and all that stuff, especially with its kind of closing battle. It just felt like a stinking Dragon Ball Z, like on an epic scale. And so it was just amazing that they were able to do that. But when we saw the trailers, it was kind of like Kristen was like, I don't really I don't know anything about that culture. How can I mean, we'll go see it, but I don't really know if I'll like it. And then she like really liked it. It's just one of those things like these different subgenres of films, these different genres can kind of get you involved and get you hooked into kind of opening up your mind to a way that other culture celebrates life and does things. And it's just it's really cool. And horror is a fun way to introduce that too, because what makes us scared also, is can be universal, as you said. So, Josh, have you done any international horror deep dives at all?
Yeah, so working at the video store, because that's really where my rabbit hole diving started happening. Was like I loved cinema as a kid, but I mostly I didn't take into account like how things were made and how they're shot, any of that stuff. So when I worked at the video store, we'd get every title you could think of. Like either someone would trade an old title in used and we could rent it. So I was like every weekend we get new release rentals, so we'd take those home. But a lot of times I mean, there was maybe like one new release that looked worth watching. So I would just rent some of the old ones that I knew people talked about a lot. And that's definitely where like my appreciation for horror started. So this was probably probably like 2010 and on, just not terribly long ago, but 16 years. But yeah, I just going back to what Brendon was saying about America and or like the USA and like international ones kind of like copying each other. One of my favorite movies that the original and the US version are both phenomenal is a vampire movie called Let the Right One In and Let Me In. They're literally pretty much shot for shot the same movie, but they just have their own takes on them. Let Me In was done by Matt Reeves, who obviously just did The Batman, which was phenomenal, but he did a really awesome take on it. Great cast. But I saw the international version first before I saw the American, because they came out 2 years apart from each other. And I love those films. I think they're very well made. Actually, I was unpacking my physical media because I finally bought a shelf. I got to get another one because I have way more than I thought I was going to like put up. But I started organizing my horror ones first. And I found my both copies. I have both movies on physical media. So I need to go back and rewatch them because it's been a while. But those movies just really caught my eye. That was like the first, I'd say, I don't know if Let the Right One In was the first international movie I watched. There was Del Toro, like his early movies, like Kronos or The Devil's Backbone. Like I have the Criterion set that has both of those in them, and I think I saw those before I saw Let the Right One In. But let the right one in. Just it's a great story. It's not like straight up horror the whole time. It actually has like heart, and it has like a lot of a backstory and stuff. So it's kind of cool. But just the way they did it is really awesome. And then going back to Brendon was just talking about Zombie 2 or whatever. I dig a lot of the international zombie films, like especially, from Fulci, or even like Argento. I know he produced it, but like Demons is such a fun, it's like such a black, and that like that score is just like a heavy metal, like it's just so
So
awesome.
80s. Oh yeah.
But yeah, like they did borrow a lot of stuff, but like that's fine, because I mean what they did with it was awesome. Suspiria. There's been some awesome international films, but those are the first ones I was going to talk about right now, and then I might bring up a couple more in a little bit here.
Nice. Very cool. All right, it's time. Let's hear it. What international horror movies would you say are essential to expanding our horizons?
Well, for one, you definitely have to go into the world of Lucio Fulci. As Josh mentioned earlier, Fulci is probably my favorite Italian director. A lot of people will say Argento, and I love Argento's films, but Fulci just has a certain rawness, a certain viciousness to his work. And not only that, but he has a certain humor to his work that, is a very surreal mix of things. The fact that he just has this thing, he's certain trademarks. Like if you're someone that's a bit squeamish around eye trauma or things happening to eyeballs, you'll be warned that Fulci will definitely get on your nerves in regards to certain things. But I will say the Fulci film that I would have to recommend to people would be The Beyond. The Beyond is such a phenomenal film. You don't really have to know much about Fulci's filmography to really go into The Beyond. You're going to get everything that I love about Fulci. You're going to have great set pieces. Of course, it's set in America, but only certain exteriors are used in America. The rest is in Italy. So the Beyond is set in New Orleans, and it is this very creepy film in regards to, it's related to the Gates of Hell trilogy, which is a kind of unofficial thematic film series in regards to Fulci, in regards to the City of the Living Dead, the Beyond, and the House by the Cemetery. They're loosely connected, very, very loosely connected. But great gore. If you are a bit sensitive in regards to things happening to kids, also, steer a little clear, but it's all in fun and good games because it probably has one of the coolest headshots ever in a film, and the person that it happens to, you're going to be totally surprised by. And it's going to, every time I watch it, it just takes me by surprise. I'm not going to spoil it just for those who haven't watched it, but I do have a t-shirt of that particular headshot, and people who see it are always like, oh, dude. So
Yeah.
definitely check out The Beyond. It's so cool. And you're also going to get acquainted to the very, very weird Fulci endings. That's one of the things that I love about Fulci movies. By the end of the film, it just makes you feel very uneasy. Can't help but to ponder what was he meaning by those particular endings. And it's something that you can get into like endless debates on with your friends. Like, okay, what did that particular ending mean? What did you get from it? I definitely get into debates about that, about the Beyond, and most certainly about the City of the Living Dead, because that's another ending that's very abrupt. And you're just like, okay, it's a happy ending, I guess. So just check it out for sure. But Fulci is amazing. That's a very cool film. But also, if you want to get into the more violent Fulci, that's a little bit more unhinged, New York City Ripper is one that
Yes.
is,
I was just gonna bring that one up.
it's a delightful one. Let's just say Fulci has a thing for Donald Duck. So, you'll know what that means. And also, there's another Donald Duck reference with another Fulci film, Don't Torture a Duckling, which I just saw for the first time not too long ago as a part of Joe Bob Briggs's The Last Drive-In. They just showed that recently, and that's another Fulci film that I absolutely love. Another very cool ending, more great music, but yeah, man, definitely dive into Fulci because I most definitely pray at the altar of Fulci for sure.
It's awesome. Very cool. I don't know that I've seen any Fulci, so I'm writing all of these down to make sure that I go back
And the great thing
check them
You
about
out.
definitely got to watch Zombie because like you can. I mean, it has a lot of reference. It has especially. It kind of reminds me of what would happen. In Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, the very end, they
when they're
get
on
to
the
the
island,
dock.
yeah.
Yeah, so like Zombie, I mean, I know it was made way before that remake, but like it's almost like what would happen
Mhm.
once they got on that dock. Like it's
Gotcha.
awesome though. The I love Fulci. I mean, he's great, but like his practical effects are so good. Like Zombie, some of the like face torture like Brendon was talking about is just so well done, and it just looks so realistic. It's crazy, but yeah, he's a phenomenal. I need to see more of his work. I've only seen a few, like the ones that Brendon just mentioned, but I do like all the ones that he mentioned. So
And the great thing about
Nice.
Fulci stuff is the fact that it's so readily available. At least most of his heavy hitters, you can find them easily on Amazon Prime, Tubi for sure. Tubi is like a treasure
right.
trove of Fulci stuff. So it's very easy to just type in Lucio Fulci and a lot of stuff will come up.
Nice. All right, where do we go next?
Next, let's go to Korea. And this is something that I have actually shown as part of my live watch parties. This one is something that isn't necessarily straight horror in some ways, but it's more so psychological horror, more so cat and mouse. Just think of the South Korean equivalent of The Silence of the Lambs. And this film is called I Saw the Devil.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, I love that movie so much.
I have it on my list. I haven't watched it, but
Yeah.
I saw it. I'm like this because I think I was looking, every October I do a scary movie watch-a-thon, and I was try to watch as many movies in October as possible. And so this was on my list, and I just never got to it. I don't know how long it is, but when I'm trying to watch a bunch of movies, I tend to end up going for like the 90-minute ones because I'm like, I got to get 3 in, and then I'm about going to sleep. I got to, okay. Now I know I got to go
Yeah,
watch it.
most definitely
But you'll
check it
love
out.
it. It's one of the best.
It
Nice.
That
really
movie
is.
blew my mind. It's so good.
I had so many people recommend it to me, and it's one of those things where, you constantly hear, you know, recommendations from people whose opinions you really respect in regards to films. And I kept hearing from people, man, you got to see I Saw the Devil. You have to see it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to check it out. And they're like, they gave me the bare bones synopsis of it, but they're just like, dude, just watch the first 10 to 15 minutes, just the first scene, and you're going to be hooked. And it starts off beautiful, beautiful setting, snowfall coming down in South Korea, and this woman who's having car trouble. And, it's just one of those things, and there's this guy who's coming to possibly help. Is he going to help her? Is he going to harm her? And it plays with this. And it's a very vulnerable position for this woman because she just got off the phone with her husband. And, you find out these things about her and her life. And it really gets your emotions into it, like immediately. But let's just say something happens and it turns into a cat and mouse game between two people. And it's probably one of the best portrayals of revenge outside of Count of Monte Cristo because it really shows that element of, okay, how far would you go to, repay the favor in regards to having something wrong done to you? And it's cool when, you have one person that's on one side of the law that doesn't care about rules. And so therefore he can pretty much do whatever. And then you have another person who can operate above the law. So he can pretty much do whatever he wants to do. So who has the upper hand here? So it's pretty much a game of wits. And not only that, but, it's very character driven because you're going to have certain points where they're going to introduce one particular character for one particular moment. And it serves a purpose later on in the film. And it's just a phenomenal film. I can't talk it up enough. It has some of the most action-packed scenes in a horror film because it just ramps up the action. It does have that, little bit of martial arts feel to it in certain ways. But, but I also will say by the end of the runtime, because it's a good 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45-minute film, the last shot sticks with me. It's one of those films that, it takes you on a journey and it leaves you at a certain point in a character's life. And it makes you wonder, okay, what next? Like, what is next for this particular person? Because
Nice.
he's been focused on certain things at this particular point, but now it's just like, okay, well, all right, what now? And it's really deep and it really makes you think about a lot of things in regards to how, you would go about in the same scenario if the same thing happened to you. And, it's really, really deep. So I highly recommend that one as well.
Very cool.
And the antagonist is the lead in Old Boy, which our listeners might be more familiar with. That just had an anniversary last year. I got to go see that on the big screen. He puts out another phenomenal performance in this, but even crazier than I actually would say I Saw the Devil. I know people think Old Boy is pretty insane, like the ending for sure, but I think I Saw the Devil is even crazier. I rented it at the video store and it blew my mind. So it was on my list to get on physical media for a while, and then my brother bought it for me on Blu-ray like a couple years ago for Christmas. So that was a nice little surprise because that movie's one you have, especially if you're trying to get into international stuff, like that movie's a must watch. It's so good. So good.
You know what? I just thought, I have a feeling that one of these days, fairly soon, if they haven't already done it already, they may already have done it. I may be behind the 8 ball on this. They're going to come up with a VHS player that connects via HDMI.
There we go.
And just because it's simpler connected and it's more modern looking, but it's like I
people
think
love
about this.
VHS, so
Yeah, like with the fact that physical media is making a comeback, that a lot of people are like looking for that. Like I think about this vinyl record player I have over here. It's a brand new one. It's got a couple of hookups and I go, as opposed to like the old record players that were really clunky and were difficult to handle. I just plug this into my speakers and I'm good to go. I have a feeling that somebody, if they're smart enough, they'll try and do that, because I think there's a big enough market. Maybe it's not big enough yet, but I think there's gonna be a market for that kind of retro video, like finding these VHSs and collecting them and having something to play them on that's better than trying to lug out all the cords and cables and trying to figure out how do I connect this to my TV.
They honestly will probably, because I know they had VHS, Blu-ray, or DVD combo ones, so they probably would just have like a combo player, like a 3-in-1 or 4-in-1 or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be
But yeah, that'd be cool. Because I'm not sure. There's a lot of the international ones they don't have on VHS, like the newer one. Like I don't think I Saw the Devil because it was 2010. So, but there's companies out there that'll export them into a VHS for fans, and like you can buy them, which is so cool. And they've been doing that with like the Terrifier movies. Like they released, I have the Terrifier 3 VHS. I don't have a VHS player, but I have the two VHS tape Terrifier 3, which is pretty cool. Just as like a collector's item. So it's fun. But yeah, physical media, I hope it never dies. I know we've had some close calls. It's, literally one of my favorite things that I've ever collected.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we went from Italy to South Korea. Where are we headed next?
Okay, where we're headed next is let's see, another good one. Okay, let's go to Argentina. This is another one that we have watched on the live watch parties for the channel. And every time I recommend this to people and they've seen it, they're just like, dude, thank you so much for telling me about this one because that one's absolutely sick. So this one is called When Evil Lurks.
Yes, I just
That's an
saw this
awesome one.
one. Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
If
Great.
you are someone who hates when films take 30 minutes to get into the point of the film, you're going to love this film because literally within the first like 2 minutes, you're just like, we're
Yeah.
starting right into this film.
Yeah, we're right
Like
in it.
you are knowing what the MacGuffin is, and you're like, okay, this is how this is going to start. My goodness, this film is a roller coaster ride. It's almost comedic in some ways because it's like, okay, you have these two brothers that are pretty much trying to get rid of this. Okay, I'm going to tell you the bare bones part of it. So these brothers are coming across this guy who is basically possessed, and they basically have to get rid of him outside of their town. They're basically just trying to get rid of this guy, just put him off on anyone else. Just get away from us. So they can't kill him because apparently killing him is going to make it worse. So it's these two brothers' journey on trying to get rid of this possessed demon. And literally, it is so messed up. It is literally messed up. So the director and writer, I can just say, I don't know what they were thinking, but it's just like, I love whatever was going on in their mind because everything that could have went wrong goes wrong. And you feel so bad for these guys because, you know, it's just a problem. It's just like, think of anything that's happening, a random day and a mouse is in your house and you're just like, okay, I just need to get this mouse out of my house and I'll feel better. You know, you can go anywhere else. But this situation is that times a million because the stakes are so much higher. And not only that, but everything revolving around you gets affected in certain ways. So it's just really creepy. The practical effects in it are great. The couple of times that they did use special effects were respectfully done. It wasn't too overdone or anything. But if you are wanting a film that could just show you how messed up films can be internationally, When Evil Lurks is a very, very good one. Another one that has a great ending as well. It's not a happy ending. I will spoil that part about it. It's not going to be a happy ending. You're going to probably want to take a shower afterwards because you're just going to feel like just so dirty because you're just like, wow, man, that just really sucked. So definitely check that one out. Highly, highly recommend When Evil Lurks.
Yeah, and
That's
don't just take his word for it. I mean, it was certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. The critic score was actually higher than the audience score at a 96 out of 121 reviews. So that's tough to do for any movie, but for a violent horror movie that's international, that's pretty impressive. So it's very good. I can back that up. I think it's on, it's definitely a Shudder. I think it's a Shudder exclusive, but you can find it on, I think it's on Prime as well, but you can find it places. And then the Blu-ray is super cheap on Amazon. You can get it for, I think it's like $12 or something. So
Yeah.
for all the physical
awesome.
media people out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that during October of this year, and I'd seen it on there, and of course I'd seen the critic rating, and I even put it on my Letterboxd list, and I would put it on my Letterboxd list, and sometimes I'll sort it by, time, right? So I can get the short ones, knock the short ones out, and then sometimes I'll sort by rating, and I'll give it to Kristen to say because she doesn't like to watch like B movie horror. She's like, I don't want to waste my time, So I understand where she's going from. It's fine. I get it. The Dentist 2 is not a great film, but it's one that's, it's there and I want to watch it. But yeah, so when it was so high up on the list, and we picked it, and so really enjoyed that. And I think too, it's something I think kind of what I was saying earlier. Unfortunately, sometimes in America, we think like Hollywood is the mecca, is the only place where good quality films can be made. And these are examples of films where it's like, no. We're just one of the types of people in the world making films. And this is another example of just an incredibly well done, well made, well shot. Everything from start to finish is, and I think that's where the critics see the beauty. They see this as a film that's worth watching, and not just a movie to go, make a bunch of money at the cinema. It's though this is worth your time, energy. So yeah, I would second the second. So there we go. Very cool. All right, what's next?
Okay, let's go to France. Now, I love talking about the French, as drunk Orson Welles would say, the French. So, with France, I started to get into the new French Extremity films of the 2000s, and that started off with me with the buzz that was going around High Tension when it came out. So I saw the unrated version of High Tension at a Blockbuster. The trailers looked so cool for it. And, I just saw the chick with the cool looking chainsaw, and I'm like, okay, cool. This looks something like it'll be bloody. Bloody was an understatement. It's one of those films that, I loved showing it to people for the first time. And if you could stick through High Tension, then you will be a good friend of mine for sure. I love the fact that, it was just unforgiving with the amount of gore and blood. Like that one scene when I mentioned blood, just like so beautiful. And also just the fact that it was just so bizarre. That one scene in the truck with at the beginning and the head, and you're just like, okay, what am I in for with this film? But
Yeah.
I know certain people have their problems with the actual twist and things of that nature, and for that, I've always taken it as what it is, But I still love that film, but that really led me to search out other films, and films that I loved a bit more than High Tension. And some of those films would be, for one, there's this one film called Live It. And Live It is very underrated in a lot of ways. I always like to say it really gave a lot of inspiration. It had to for the Abigail movie,
Okay.
because this film is about a young vampire. It's basically a mix of like Abigail and Don't Breathe in a lot of ways. So you have this French woman who's basically trying to rob the house of this woman that she's taking care of, but she doesn't know that this house holds a bit of ancient secrets in a lot of ways that's tied to vampirism. So it's very creepy. It's set in this old French house that, French houses look very weird, just especially if they're just old cottages and, they're just very unsettling. So that film was very cool. Another film that I love that a lot of people will mention is Martyrs. Martyrs is absolutely great. I always say Martyrs is like the thinking man's gore film. It
Yeah.
is very highly intellectual. The imagery and the violence is very stylistic. It's very beautiful in a lot of ways, very brutal, but the story was very fascinating to me. And the fact that, you have like this cult that's trying to find like, the meaning of death and if there is possibly life beyond the veil. And, the way that they're going about doing it is very fascinating. And there's a bit of a revenge. There you go.
There
See,
you go.
there's a bit of a revenge plot
Unrated.
to it. You got to have it unrated.
Yeah, you have to.
Absolutely fantastic film. And, the ending is great too, because like I said, I'm a sucker for an ending that makes you think, an ending that sticks with you. Like the ending to Martyrs is one of those endings that you'll be sitting in your bed late at night and it'll wake you up at like 2 a.m. You're just like fascinated on the ending of Martyrs. And you're just like, what did that mean? And, that's something that you could have literally an hours long discussion with your friends. Like I wouldn't be surprised if someone has written a college paper in regards to Martyrs and the meanings of it and the symbolisms and things of that nature. Stay away from the American remake. Stay far away from the American remake. But definitely watch the original Martyrs if you can. And the last one that I will bring up, well, in regards to the new French Extremity films, will be my personal favorite of them. And it's the one that I watch every Christmas. And I like to lure unsuspecting friends into it by saying that this is the reason for the season. And that is the movie Inside. And I'm just going to get to the point with Inside. Pregnant woman, Christmas Eve, another woman knocks at the door and she's trying to take her baby. And she's trying to take her baby with the sharpest pair of scissors you've ever seen in your life. And when I tell you that's a film that is just so cool, the French just have a way of showing blood. Blood splatter is like a great thing that they just make an art of, and it's very cool. I will say that the ending is a happy ending for somebody. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but someone ends that movie off getting exactly what they want. So
Wow.
definitely check out Inside. Very cool film. The set pieces in regards to these French films just are absolutely brilliant. They will make your stomach turn with some of the deaths and some of the kills, but that's the beauty of them, because that's one of the things that the Americans, especially at that particular point in time, weren't necessarily getting right, mainly because of over reliance on CGI and things of that nature. So the fact that these filmmakers from overseas were using practical effects to the way that they were, it was kind of a throwback to those 80s and 90s films that we loved. And the last one, now this is a more modern French film, and this one, the title tells you everything you need to know about it. So it's called Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person.
I have seen that title pop up on like Prime or Shudder or something. I'm like, that looks so interesting. Just the title itself.
The title, literally, the title leaves nothing up to the imagination. You know exactly what you're getting yourself into, but what you don't know is this film is filled with so much heart. Like, it is one of those films that you can watch with your significant other, and even if they're not really into horror, I guarantee you this will be something that you all can like and both really enjoy from different standpoints. Like, I would definitely say it's probably the best horror romantic comedy that I've ever seen, because it's definitely horror based, but think of like the humor that you would get from What We Do in the Shadows in some ways in regards to how they look at vampires. But you have this one vampire chick who just doesn't want to kill to get her blood. And of course, if you're a vampire, you need blood to survive. So her family is looking at her like she's weird. She's like, okay, just grab someone, kill them or whatnot. She wants to find a loophole to basically feed. So she's looking for a suicidal person in order to feed on. But the guy that she comes across, he's wanting to end things, but it leads into a journey between these two characters and them kind of falling in love in some ways. And it is a great story. It's definitely a great mix of horror and romantic comedy. And I took a swing at it because, like I said, I will definitely take the recommendations of people whose taste I really respect. But when I kept hearing this title come up as the best of, I think 2024 is when it came out, and
Wow.
it kept getting on best of list of people that I really respect, and I had to see it. It was on Shudder, and it did not disappoint at all. So I highly recommend people go see that tonight. If there's any one film that you have to see tonight, I would say go see that one because of the uniqueness of it and the fact that, once you tell other people the title, it's kind of like it's going to really intrigue them. They're going to want to
Yeah.
know what's going on with this film, but you're going to get emotionally invested in this film easily. So it's one of those films that the heart just really gets to you, is really genuine. And, you know, you really kind of get the feel of like, okay, this vampire that doesn't have feelings kind of develops feelings in certain ways, and which she really shouldn't. So it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet in some ways, but in this cool little
Yeah.
vampire human rollout.
That's interesting, man. Like, kind of reminds me, you kind of talking about it brought up like Warm Bodies, in my
Yeah,
head,
yeah.
where it's like the zombie who falls in love and that comes back to life. I know it's not necessarily that the vampire doesn't become a vampire, but that one comes to mind. And then I also thought of Lisa Frankenstein, this kind of
Mhm.
horror and like romantic comedy type style. So Giallo Cody writing that, and I think directing that one too. But yeah, that's cool.
It's
I
kind
have
of
not
like
seen any.
Only Lovers Left Alive, too, the
Yes.
Jim Jarmusch film. That's kind of like a more comedic, more heartfelt look at vampires and how they would honestly live without the violence kind of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's fun to kind of we've gotten so much. These characters and these like kind of character types, these archetypes of like vampires and zombies and werewolves, and it's like we have seen them done in so much like the normal way that it's always kind of nice to kind of see somebody's take on like, well, what if we kind of flipped it on its head and we kind of went this direction. You even think about like something like Interview with a Vampire, because the guy becomes a vampire not because he really wanted to, but then he's like eating rats instead of trying to eat humans. It's like that's always kind of a thing, that we always know, like they have to. And then even like I just thought of Morbius comes to mind, like he's trying to form fake blood, to that he's trying to save people, but now he's like, I have to drink it to survive, but it only lasts a certain amount of time. So anyway, it's interesting, these different takes on vampires. There've been a couple that have come up. I have to rethink. I might not have seen High Tension. I think I saw P2, and I think they have a similar look in the actress.
Yeah, I think maybe
Is it
the
a
same director
remake?
or something. Yeah, something like
Yeah,
Okay.
that the covers have the same color
Mhm.
coordination too, so like it's a lot
Yeah.
of red and kind of like pinkish red hues and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
But I definitely.
High Tension's definitely one you should watch though, for sure. I second what Brendon said.
Absolutely. And I
And
saw Martyrs a couple years ago. Yeah.
Inside and Inside, I think they did a remake
they did.
recently,
Yeah.
like 2023. I haven't seen the remake, but yeah, the original one is really good, and it was part of for all the physical media people out there. We used to get these DVDs that would come in from Dimension Extreme, and they had the Dimension Extreme in
Okay.
the corner.
Yeah.
Eden Lake, another
Yep.
favorite of mine. That was
Yeah.
one of those movies. But yeah, they would release a movie like every few months back in the video store days, and Inside was one of those movies that they put out, and it had an unrated edition, which is the better version. You get
Yeah.
more of the cool stuff, more of the cool bonus features. It's pretty awesome. So
It's awesome. And the one you said, was it Live It, like Live It or
Yeah,
Livid?
Livid.
Livid, Livid. Yeah.
Okay.
2011. Does that sound right, Brendon?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds good, man. All right. Where are we headed to next?
Next, we are headed to Japan, and this one is another one, but it's not a J horror, so to speak. This one is more so for us that love movies. So if you're someone that loves movies and seeing the production of movies, so if you're someone that loves to hear all the behind the scenes stories of like for instance, like The Shining, I love hearing all the behind the scenes stories of The Shining about Kubrick making, Shelley Duvall do all the takes, or Scatman Carruthers do all the takes, and you hear about these directors and how they are almost like tyrants over the sets, or also you just hear about the crazy things that will go on behind the scenes in regards to any of our favorite movies. And that's one of the things I love about going to cons is when you go to these panels, you get to hear all of these stories from the production of these movies and things that you never knew about. Tell me about this particular favorite scene of mine, and oh well, this person just thought this up randomly, or it just happened by accident, and you're just like, wow, that's very cool. So this particular film is called One Cut of the Dead.
Nice.
We just talked about this on our zombie episode for
Very
28
cool. I
years
was in
later.
the back of my head, I'm like thinking, I feel like he's gonna say it. And
Now,
kind of a
Nice.
little quick plug. We are going to be doing a live watch along of this on April
nice.
24th.
All right.
So we're gonna have
Hey,
ZombieCon creators back.
we should have Brendon on too.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to try to get
that'd
on
be
that one for
fun.
sure. Yeah, I love
do it.
this
We'll
film,
do it.
guys. But yeah, just
Yeah.
to put this film over, guys, great film. The tale of two movies in a lot of ways. The movie that you're going to get at the beginning, and the movie that you're going to get at the end. So I always tell people when they watch this movie for the first time, stick it out. You're going to be so confused with what you're watching. You're probably going to be wondering what's going on, but stick with it. You're going to catch on with the first bit of what's going on. You're watching a zombie movie, but halfway through it switches. And once it switches, you kind of grasp everything that's happened in the first half. And then everything comes together full circle by the end. And when I tell you, I'm a big sucker for a movie that sticks the landing. Like, if you can wrap everything up in a nice bow and make me feel like, wow, that was so worth watching it. And not only that, but make me actually kind of want to watch it again, but from the different eyes, from, watching it, like knowing what just happened. It's a great film that I tell people that I really wish I could go back to watching it again for the first time, because the confusion eventually subsides and you're just like, oh, I see what's going on now. And it's another film that's filled with heart. Same as Humanist Vampire. By the end of it, you're feeling all just, lack for a better term, warm and fuzzy inside. You're just like, wow, this is actually a very cute ending to this film, and it's great. And it's a love letter to filmmaking. Everything that could possibly go wrong during the production of a film. And I have a lot of you know, great feelings towards this film, but also because Joe Bob Briggs showed this film on the last drive-in. And that's another reason why I saw this film for the first time. And he had this very influential speech during the episode where he's basically begging everyone that's out there that has a dream to do anything creatively, whether you want to direct, you want to write, you want to be a musician, just whatever you have a passion for, but you may feel like, man, I'm too old, I don't have the education for it. Just whatever the excuse is. Joe Bob is just telling you, man, screw all of that. Just start doing it right now. And that particular speech is what got me to start my YouTube channel. It was just like, man, I have always wanted to do something like this creatively and connect with other horror fans. And I see people that, are on YouTube that I watch all the time. And, they also say the same thing where it's like, hey, I'm not doing anything particularly special. I'm just a guy with a camera and I'm just uploading my content up. You can do the same thing. But there was something about watching One Cut of the Dead and the message that Joe Bob was giving to his viewers to say, hey, just go out there, take a swing, and go out there and make your art. And ever since then, I've been out there on the grind doing YouTube, and it's led me to meet all types of great people, you guys included. And it's just one of those things that if I didn't do it, who knows, I may have not ever crossed paths with you guys to be friends like this. And, there's all types of great benefits to going out there and pursuing your art. So I love this film because not only is it a great film, but just the message in the film that just tells you, hey, whatever you want to do and strive for, whatever you have a passion for, go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I appreciate that. And what is the last drive-in? Is that a YouTube bit channel?
That's a
I'm familiar with it.
That's a show on Shudder. Basically, it is a
Okay.
revived version of Joe Bob's Briggs show Monster Vision, which then was a revised version of his show on the movie channel. So if you are anyone in the amount of Gen Xers or millennials that grew up watching TNT back in the day, you may have seen Joe Bob Briggs's Monster Vision on TNT. It was, the channel for a few years. It was unceremoniously axed when TNT just decided it wanted to do other things. And he came back about 8 or 9 years ago. It was supposed to be a one-time send-off. He was going to do a dusk till dawn to dusk marathon of films, and he ended up crashing the Shudder servers. And
Wow.
that
Yeah.
just fed to the demand of this guy. I mean, all the people that grew up watching him, we all missed him so much, because this guy was like our Yoda in regards to like films and, he would just give off so many facts about all of these films. And, he would expose us to all of these great, whether it would be the crappy B and C level movies that TNT could afford to
Mm-hmm.
show, but he made it entertaining because he would give you all the stories of the actors, the directors, the writers, and he was basically like IMDb before IMDb trivia. So
Yeah.
he was just great, and he pretty much crashed the internet, and it fed to him getting the show back because there was just so much demand, and he's pretty much the thing that's pretty much keeping Shudder afloat for a lot of people, because a lot of people have kept their Shudder subscriptions just to watch Joe Bob. And I definitely highly recommend it for people that, are trying to get, especially because he shows a lot of international horror films.
Mm-hmm.
He is a big expert in regards to Italian cinema and giallos and all of that. So he constantly exposes me even today to new stuff. And he's a big reason why I do this today and why I've connected with so many people that I have in the past, going on 4 years of doing YouTube now.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
You
That's a
can
great.
yeah, for people who don't like want to get another subscription to check it out, they do sell a few of his like Blu-rays and DVDs from Shudder exclusively at Walmart, and they're very inexpensive. They have a really cool 2-pack. He did a show where he showed Mayhem with Stephen Yoon and Suitable Flesh, and you can get that.
Nice.
The Blu-ray is only like $12. You can get that, watch it, enjoy his knowledge on it. And they have some other ones that pop up randomly at your Walmart physical, because that's one of the only retailers nowadays you can get physical media still. So
And
they seem to get all the Shutter stuff.
you can also check out a lot of his Monster Vision and the movie channel stuff on YouTube. So if you just type
Okay.
in
Yeah.
Joe Bob Briggs, there's like this awesome playlist that someone has that literally has like from the early days to like almost the last episode of Monster Vision. So you could pretty much kind of, it only has the TNT segments, so you can kind of like
Mm-hmm.
watch the movie along and just follow along with the segments and his talking points. And it's a great way to kind of like, get your feet wet with Joe Bob Briggs, because he has, shown all types of movies, not just horror. So he does all types of like exploitation. He's done like, B movie science fiction stuff, just a little bit of everything. So this is the guy that, has highly inspired me a lot and has helped out a lot with my movie knowledge. So I definitely recommend people also check out his books. He definitely just released another book that I recently purchased myself.
Nice. That's awesome.
He does
That's
a lot
awesome.
of his stuff live as well, which makes it, that's why people, flock to it.
Mm-hmm.
I know Brendon went to he had, what was that for New Year's Eve? He did in Dallas, right?
It was Halloween, so he did a Halloween all
Halloween.
night
Yeah, that's right.
marathon. So it was very cool. He did it very William Castle style. So they had all the hijinks going on through some of the movies, but he showed a great mix of everything. He showed the heavy metal Trick or Treat, starring the Ozzy Osbourne cameo. He did cool
Wow.
things like a William Castle movie. He did all types of other films. So it's well varied, and he knows his stuff. He did like a great costume contest. And I definitely say, check out his YouTube stuff for those who aren't familiar. He's definitely like one of those cool uncles that would let you watch almost anything.
Yeah. Very nice. All right. Where are we headed to next? We got any more locations?
Yes, yes. Another one of, well, this is going to go old school, and it may seem like it's a no-brainer in some ways, but I must give this props because this is a major film in regards to the foundation of horror, the foundation of cinema. And not only that, but it's had multiple remakes and a storytelling version of the making of this film. But this film would be the classic Nosferatu. Now, this film is readily available, is in the public domain. This is the film that Bram Stoker's widow tried to put in the can because it was an unauthorized telling of Dracula. But F.W. Murnau was a visionary. The director was, a great guy. I really wish that Bram Stoker's widow did not sue him and the production company, because that's the reason why he wasn't able to put out as much more film as he, could have. So it is one of those tragedies in regards to filmmaking. But Nosferatu is fantastic film. It has a remake that Werner Herzog did, and then of course the Robert Eggers remake, and they all have their stylistic choices that were made for that particular time. But the Murnau one just has something about it that, just can't be topped. This uncanny eeriness of, just the fact that, they transported the story from England to Germany. And, they did what they could to kind of say, well, this isn't Dracula, it's kind of
Yeah.
like it. We changed enough. It makes me think of like Vanilla Ice saying, oh, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fantastic film. It's still creepy. The special effects still stand up. The fact that it's still inspiring people, the German expressionist look. It makes you think
Yeah.
of, the closet of Dr. Caligari. And it's just something that, was a great vision. The fact that, those German filmmakers were outclassing the American filmmakers at that time. So those of you that have never seen it, I say that it is definitely the silent film to check out, other than Phantom of the Opera. Definitely check out Nosferatu, because it is horror history, it is horror homework. And not only that, but it's still a cool film. It's aged terrifically well. It's over 100 years old. And, as rudimentary as the effects were that they used, the fact that, there's still a kind of mystery around it. The fact that, those filmmaking techniques aren't exactly still used to this day kind of makes it look so cool in a lot of ways. And then the fact that, hey, it's silent. So even though it is a German film, you're watching the English subtitles. And the cool thing is there's different soundtracks as well. There's a very cool Type O negative
Mhm.
soundtrack. There's different, soundtracks that people have created to actually put the score together for the film. And the fact that this film should be lost. The fact that this film
Yeah.
isn't lost is a godsend for us, because the fact that, they tried to have these films destroyed, and the fact that few copies slipped through, if you were watching this film in the early 90s, you were watching a very crappy copy, if I'm being frank. Most likely you were
Mhm.
watching one of those bad copies. And the fact that newer copies were being found over the years, that they could piece together a better looking copy of Nosferatu. So I'm hoping that maybe one of these days we'll get the Thomas Edison Frankenstein, because that is a lost film as well. But, the fact that, we are able to see this film in its entirety is something super cool. So go out and see Nosferatu if you haven't.
I'll tell you, I was, I watched it. The first time I watched it was late at night, and I kind of fell asleep because I just was not prepared for watching it. But we watched it in preparation for Nosferatu. Watched it again, uh, and the version I found was I think it was even on like Shutter or Prime, and it actually showed at the beginning. It's like told the history of like this part of the film was lost. We found it in this year. This is cut together. We recreated some of the things from the script. Like it was just like they really have. I mean, there's like an institute that's dedicated to trying to preserve these films, and they put so much effort and work into getting this. I was just like, this is insane. And we watched it, and it was just like it's so beautiful. You can tell what's going on without all the dialogue. There's so much beautiful, like this is what the kind of the visual medium of film should be, can be. Now, there's nothing to say that script writing is also something beautiful and we want to celebrate it, but there's also that sense of where being able to tell a story with little words. John Wick comes to mind. No, no, just kidding.
And it takes me back to
But yeah, I
what
mean,
Josh said also about, physical media. If it wasn't for those guys who were collectors, who had copies of these films in tins sitting in their attics, we wouldn't be able to see some of these films. And that's also another thing with, even though if you are a collector that is holding on to things, you can't necessarily gatekeep it because some of these films are deteriorating. You need to get it out there so it is preserved so that future generations can, witness and appreciate these films. So that's why I really appreciate guys like Josh who are really big on collecting and physical media and keeping things available because, if you're relying on streaming and things of that nature, they can take it away from us at any time. And not only that, but they can change things. Like, okay, side note, I just came back from Las Vegas not too long ago and I got to see The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. Amazing experience, great experience, but they use AI to upscale certain things and to make it possible to watch in the Sphere. Now, it's a very cool experience, but as someone who is used to watching The Wizard of Oz a certain way, seeing some of those AI faces is very jarring. So, you don't want that to be the only version of that film that future generations are able to see because that's very scary, So I really tip my hat to guys like Josh that are all about, collecting and keeping these films the way that they should be seen. George Lucas.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I know Disney is planning to release the original cut, so it'll be interesting to see if that ends up making it into physical media. I'm sure it will. They like making money, and there's so many people that are our age that would be dropping dollars, lots of dollars to get those original copies and a good version. So I'm still so mad. I think I lost them, my VHSs of the original VHS.
Man,
So mad. I took them to
man.
college and I just don't know what happened to them. It's just like lost in the stratosphere. It's probably one of those things where, oh, I got the DVD now. I don't need
Yeah,
it
yeah.
because I was dumb, right? I was a dumb college kid. But yeah, that's cool, man. No, I've actually seen Closet of Dr. Caligari as well. And so, seeing some of the silent films. One of the other ones we watched was I have to find the story, but I'll post it. It was just a story of two humans, kind of just a love story, and it was really beautiful. And then we watched Metropolis. We're about to watch that on Friday for our live stream. So first time doing a silent film for the live stream. But yeah, there's just something about those films, like we said earlier. There's films that stand the test of time and are still being talked about and still looked at to get knowledge and to learn from because they had something that was so unique that we continue to use either those techniques or we try and find a way to do it the way that they did it. I think that's one of the things that makes Robert Eggers so unique in the sense that he is trying to when he makes a film, he's at least I know specifically with the Lighthouse, and I think with some of the other films, it's like I want to recreate the exact thing that would have happened at that time period. I know with the Lighthouse in particular, he used microphones and cameras and lighting techniques, and everything he did for that film was period specific, and it's just like that's just insane to try and do that. So there's just something about that we're still learning from, and someone like Eggers is bringing it to a modern audience in a way that's unique and also telling a story that a modern audience can appreciate, and then hopefully go, I want to see the original, and then that's how, and that's why I kind of argue that sometimes remakes aren't bad. Sometimes remakes are a way of introducing
Yeah.
something, and even an American remake of a foreign film being able to like introduce us, like you wouldn't have seen the Ringu if they didn't make the Ring, right? It's like these are somewhat like gateways to finding a new horizon to travel down. So, but yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Now,
Any other journeys you're gonna take us on tonight?
I can't get off of here without showing love to Giallos. Now, I mentioned them earlier. They are probably the hallmark of Italian horror. It is basically the Giallos. The origin of them are basically little yellow paperbacks in Italy that are basically crime pulp novels, and Giallo is basically yellow in Italian. So basically, it's these little yellow books, crime novels. They would be really cheap, and apparently, they really took off in Italy. I think around World War II or post World War II. But apparently, they made a transition for the cinema and they were all the rage. The origin of the Giallo can be traced back to probably Mario Bava and Blood and Black Lace. Blood and Black Lace is a very influential Giallo film. Mario Bava, great Italian director. A lot of people would probably know him from the film Black Sabbath and also Black Sunday as well. Black Sunday is the one with the witches. So that's a great one as well that I recommend. But with Bava, he was an Italian master. This dude was a filmmaking genius. But the thing was, by the time that the Giallos became in vogue, he was kind of beyond his prime. He was an old man then. So he may have started the Giallo craze with Blood and Black Lace, and that's a great one about a mass killer killing models in a fashion house in Rome. It's a great film because the colors pop, like, oh my gosh, like beautiful colors. The colors that were chosen for the wardrobing, the lighting, fantastic film. For a 1964 film, man, I really recommend people check it out. Then let me also give Bava some love because there's another thing with Bava. Bava actually influenced Friday the 13th, specifically Friday the 13th Part 2, because they aped a kill from a Mario Bava film. So I definitely love to give Mario Bava his props. Let me give you the actual film. And it's cool because let me see. This one is A Bay of Blood. I always forget about that particular title, but A Bay of Blood, great film. And people know the kill
Yeah.
from Friday the 13th too. It's basically the 2-in-1 when he kills the couple through the bed and impales them. That exact kill is aped from Blood of Bay of Blood. So definitely check that out. Now, that's my
Nice.
love for Bava. Now, Bava may have been an old man then, but the guy who was all the rage, and we mentioned him earlier, is Argento. So with Argento, of course, everyone knows Suspiria. You know, or at least you should know Suspiria. That opening scene is fantastic. At least watch it for that. Now, some people will say Argento is more style over substance in his films, and I won't necessarily disagree, but the style is on point. I will always say that. But in regards to Argento, ones that you absolutely have to see would be his first Giallo is The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. That's 1970. Great Giallo. And the thing with all Giallos have in common is they're basically like murder mysteries in a lot of ways. So another thing that influenced films like Friday the 13th, because there's obviously a Giallo factor with Friday the 13th. And as you become more familiar with the Giallo subgenre, you will realize that there's a lot of influence in America, especially on certain directors like Brian De Palma. You get to a lot of his films in the 80s, Body Double. You know, a lot of these films were obviously his attempts at doing a Giallo. And the thing is, if you look into the American influence, well, the Americans that were influenced by Giallos, you will see that there was a time in the 80s where Americans tried to do Giallos. They never really got it right, but there were some attempts to get it done. And, I could possibly bring some of those up later, but while we're on the subject of Argento, also go into Tenebrae, which I possibly think is his best Giallo. It has probably the most beautiful blood spray of all time in cinema history. For lack of better words, it is absolutely breathtaking. You'll know it when you see it because it's going to come out of nowhere and you're going to be like, wow, that looks very cool. But also, is very known for having this very cool one take shot where the shot goes from it goes from the inside to the outside back to the inside, but it is so beautifully shot. And not only that, but the music. Okay, when you get into films with Argento and some films with Fulci, you're going to be familiar with the band Goblin. And Goblin is a quintessential part of a lot of these Giallo films. Very funky, very disco-y, but they're bops. You can't help but to dance along and say, wow, man, I like this song. So you're gonna find yourself finding out the actual soundtracks to some of these films just so that you can listen to some of the music. And the one that a lot of people say is Argento's best film, though I personally say Tenebrae, that would be Deep Red. Deep Red is a phenomenal film from top to bottom. If there's one Argento film that I will say is probably the most easily digestible and is probably the most sensible from beginning scene to ending, because Italian cinema can get a little surreal sometimes and get a little away from our American sensibilities because we're just like, we're used to seeing certain films. But Deep Red is very straight to the point. Great twist when you find out who the killer is. Great kills, great music. The set pieces are phenomenal. He also has his frequent collaborator and ex-wife, Daria Nicoletti, who is the mother of Asia Argento, who we would possibly be familiar with some of her films in the genre and her acting in certain films. But yeah, man, it all just comes together with a great hodgepodge of just horror goodness, especially in Deep Red. I definitely highly probably recommend that film beyond any of them for people that are just getting into Giallo. And if you want something that's going to hook you, and by the end of that, you can say, okay, I want to check out more films like that, it will most likely be Deep Red.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, we talked about Goblin in the zombie episode a couple weeks ago because I think Dawn of the Dead was high up on our list. So we talked about how Argento, you mentioned earlier, he helped kind of like get Romero's funding from other backers for that. And a lot of that was through the music and teaming up with the management for like Goblin and all that. So that's why Goblin's a heavy influence in the music and stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And they
man.
also have like some of the coolest like titles in regards to some of the movies. Like, let me give you some of like these titles. The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave. Short Night of Glass Dolls. What Have You Done to Solange? A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. You have Black Belly of the Tarantula. The Strange Vice of Mrs. Worth. And that one's a pretty interesting one as well. But probably the coolest one is Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. Giallo titles are so bizarre and in a lot of cases have nothing to do with the actual film, but it's just a great way of like getting people, curious to check them out. And they're pretty cool. They all have like a thing of like certain, things to look for. Killer wearing black gloves, look out for that. You're going to see beautiful women dying in the most fascinating ways. Like, beautiful deaths, like women that are absolute models covered in blood in different cool ways. You're going to have the protagonist is generally going to be someone from another country. So let's just say if the film is set in Italy, he's probably going to be from England or America. Or if it's set in America, he's probably going to be from England or something like that. And the protagonist is probably going to have some sort of sexual hangup. So he's either going to be like asexual, he's going to have some sort of weird kinks or something, but there's something that's going to be unsettling. And generally there's going to be some sort of twist ending in regards to who the killer is. And in some cases they may do the good old Friday the 13th, like, oh, we've never introduced this person at all in this film, so we kind of cheated here. And then in some cases it may actually be someone that was actually in the actual film earlier, aka Scooby-Doo type vibes. So they're always a fun journey. Definitely kick back with your favorite, alcoholic beverage, or if you don't drink, whatever you like to do to enjoy your film, your favorite meal, and just put on some of these Giallo films. They are also readily available on Tubi and Amazon Prime. You could just type in Giallo in the search bar and they will come up, and they are a wild ride.
That's awesome. I just love the titles, man. That's crazy.
Right?
And I've actually seen that Your Vice is a Locked Room and I Have the Only Key. It popped up on my list somehow. I don't know if it was Instagram or what. And I was like, oh, let me add that. So just so crazy. That's amazing. Well, very cool, man. Is that the end of your list? I don't want to cut you off, but you've taken us on a wild ride, man, and I'm loving it.
Those would be
It's
all the
good.
ones that I've had on the list that I definitely wanted to talk to you guys about, that I just,
Yeah.
would highly just, if anyone came to me and they were like, "Hey, I want to get into, international horror." Maybe they had a bit of a hang up in regards to like subtitles or things of that nature. That's why I recommend Giallos, because they're all dubbed. So,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
that's an old thing that goes back to the days of Mussolini in World War II, where they thought that there would be hidden messages and things of that nature in the films. So they had to make sure that they were dubbed in this one particular studio in Italy that still overdubs films for the Italian market. So I always like to make the joke when Mussolini was being strung up in his last moments. Who would have thought that that would be his lasting legacy?
Right. Crazy. Crazy. Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I don't even have anything to add to that. That was just a great list. Appreciate you taking along that journey. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We went
Hey, I appreciate it,
on our
fellas.
travels, which is always Brendon's the best tour guides.
Yeah.
Hey, I
I'm gonna
appreciate
be
that.
definitely throwing some flags up on in the video on the podcasts or whenever we go to a different country. I don't think I can find the graphic to make us fly from one to the other, but if I could, I would. Like it's like this is great. So,
Nice.
man, what do you got going on, man? Just before we jump off, so I want you to have a chance to just promote kind of what you're doing and thank you again for being on.
Hey man, thanks so much for having me again, guys. Like, it has been an honor, truly. Pretty much in regards to what I have going on, just more HorrorCon goodness. On the horizon, as I mentioned, I will be going to Horror Hound. I'm expecting to go to Trans World this year. So if you're someone that's into animatronics, into the hunt industry, things of that nature, be on the lookout for that. St. Louis has some very cool horror related spots. I did some content there last year, but unfortunately, I ended up having my memory card corrupted. So some of
No.
that content is unable to be uploaded. So I'm going to go back to redeem myself to show you guys some of the cool things, like this very cool neighborhood bar that is horror related in St. Louis, that is still like some of the strongest and most affordable drinks that I've ever had in my life. Like when I got my bill, I felt like I stole something. I'm like, wait a second. Like literally I could have doubled my tab and like
Yeah.
give it as a tip to the bartenders, and I would have been satisfied with that. But they have like this cool horror related pizzeria, and there's this really cool old school costume shop that's been in business for forever out there. So I want to shine a light on that particular business and all of those businesses in particular. But that I'm planning on doing way more live watch parties. As Josh knows, I did some moving and things of that nature. So that's been taking a bit of my time. So I have to re-put up posters and all types of different things in the Scary Sanctuary to get the Scary Sanctuary 2.0 in running. But we're going to do a lot of that. Be on the lookout for a few new cons. I always try to bring a few new conventions to the channel that I haven't done before. A big one that I'm hoping to do is a Midsummer Scream in California. That one is a very cool one, a good mix of regular horror convention fun and hunt related stuff, because you have a lot of haunted houses that want to come and represent. And then with it being West Coast, I love a lot of those West Coast vendors. You get a lot of very cool merch and things out there. I'm guessing it's the proximity to Hollywood and, people that are really high in the special effects industry. So you get a lot of really cool stuff that, you know, really makes me jealous as someone that really gets to see a lot of cool stuff at other cons. But I'm just like, man, those West Coast convention people that are able to go out to those are really living it up. So can't wait to go out there again, and just pretty much just keeping it up with more horror goodness and just hanging out with all the other people that just enjoy the genre. So come out and hang out with me anytime, guys. Feel free to join the live watch parties. And I'm planning on having guests on some of the live streams eventually. So I'm going to look into doing that for 2026. So I would love to have you guys on and we can actually throw thoughts off of each other and, have some great
Yeah.
fun at the live stream.
Absolutely, man. We'll be throwing all your links up in the description of this video and the podcast. Definitely be throwing out all the Instagram reels so you can get as much of Horror Greenbook as you want. So check it out. Check him out. He's an awesome dude. Thanks so much again. And until next time, we'll just keep watching movies.
Easy.
Heck yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to jump over to our website, moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com, to see all of our links. Follow us on Instagram so you never miss an episode, a live stream, or an interview. And until next time, keep watching movies.